Last time I saw you, the Leafs were at 4-2-1. How do I put this gently? Let's just say we had 2 memorable weeks for all the wrong reasons. Welcome to the penalty box. So let's get this over with quickly, a quick look at the games. And because this sucks, I'm just going to take a look at the whole steaming pile of losses at once. Leafs win 3-1 against Florida, but lose Armstrong for 4 to 6 weeks with a finger injury. Woohoo. Leafs lose 2-0 in Boston. Leafs get shut out for a second time in a row, losing 2-0 to the New York Rangers. Leafs lose a closer one, 3-2, as the Sens hold them off in a late third period surge. Oh, and Phaneuf's also out 4 to 6 weeks with a deep cut on his leg after getting tangled up with Reagan along the boards. Oh joy. Leafs lose 5-4 in a shootout against Washington in a very exciting game. And finally, the Leafs lose 3-2 to the Buffalo Sabres, again in the shootout. So, what's wrong here? First off, offense. The defense and the goalies are playing amazingly well. In fact, most of the time the Leafs have been outshot this season and the goalies have held their own. The defense is playing tight, and while they do at times commit mistakes, the Leafs are among the top of the league in goals against. Goals for is where we have a problem. Quickly, name for me the Leafs' best goal scorers. MacArthur, surprisingly. Kessel, Kuhlman. Some might put Bozak and Versteeg in that category, and before the season started I would have agreed with you. But these two just have 2 goals apiece in 13 games. Yeah, between them, they only equal Kuhlman's goal total. So unless we're going to count on Kessel, Kuhlman, and MacArthur to each score 50 this year, or for Kessel to get a hat-trick every game, we're going to need some guys to step up. And the problem is we know these guys can score, they're just in some weird sort of funk. Bozak, after a brilliant rookie year, is having trouble finding his groove. And Versteeg has somehow lost his swagger from Chicago and is dying to get it back. The frustration in his interviews is just palpable. Now in the final 2 games they seem to gain some of their spark back. We can only hope that continues. Second, Brett Lebda. Now I know that there are some of you that hate him, some of you that love him. Personally, I'm on the fence. He's a very solid defender, no doubt about that. He can kill penalties and would be a solid addition to any defense corps, whether it's the Leafs or the Stanley Cup winning Red Wings squad. But there's just one little annoying habit he has. Taking penalties at critical moments. In the past couple of weeks, Lebda has been in the box for a number of game-tying or go-ahead goals. Failing that, he would take a penalty in the dying moments and go into the box, costing us a chance to tie the game. The biggest example and most fresh in my mind is the game in Washington. After being down 3-1, the Leafs have scored 3 unanswered goals in 3 minutes. Bozak and Versteeg have each scored their second of the season. The momentum's on their side. They're up 4-3, and it looks like a storybook rally against one of the elite teams in the league. Then Brett Lebda, cross-check penalty. And of course on the power play, 4-4, and we head to OT. And you know what happens next. OT gets nothing done. We head to the shootout. And of course, Ovechkin and Semin putting it away for the Caps. And if this happens once or twice, you could give him a pass, but it's happening with alarming regularity. And some have said that they're borderline calls, or maybe they shouldn't have been made. Whether or not they're borderline, the point is he's still getting these calls and costing his team. Thirdly, the Leafs need to show up at the beginning of the game. This is kind of tied in with the point I made about the offense. Again, with the exception of the last 2 games, the Leafs have had a habit of going down early. Going down by 2 or 3 by the time the third period runs around, and all of a sudden they're firing everything, including the kitchen sink, at the net. And that's good to increase the tempo and intensity in the third, but that doesn't make up for the lack of effort in the other 2 periods. Like I said, in the last 2 games this hasn't been much of a problem, and to be fair, they did face 2 red-hot goalies in Boston and New York. But it's a habit you need to nip in the bud if it rears its ugly head. And finally, at all costs, avoid the shootout. Easier said than done, I know. But think about it for a minute. If you go into a shootout with the Leafs, who do you take? Of course you go with Kessel, he's a given. Then I think Kuhlman's a reasonably safe bet. Then who? MacArthur, he's more of a rebound garbage type goal instead of a dangler. Versteeg, not the way he's playing now. Bozak, ditto. Caberlet, maybe. He seems to have had some success in shootouts. But do you see my point? The Leafs are not a shootout team. And that's why we lost the last two in spite of improved production from the offense. I mean, you can criticize Ron Wilson for not going with Kulemin and Grabowski in the shootout after scoring earlier in the game, and some of that's deserved, especially when you reach the 5th shooter mark. But when you put guys like Kulemin, Grabowski, and Bozak in a shooting competition with Ovi, Semin, and even Tyler Ennis, they'll be hard-pressed to come out of that one with a win. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. The Leafs have shown some improvement in the last two, have controlled the game most of the time. Hopefully they can build on that. Go Leafs go, and I'll see you next week.